Good evening, good afternoon, good morning, wherever you are. Welcome to another edition of Stars, Stripes, and Anfield Nights. Something that Colin, Paul, and I look forward to each week, and we're happy for everyone to have joined. It's a great community. We'll start it early. Get in your comments, your questions. We'll be happy to answer them, and we'll go with the topics for tonight and just get right on in. But before we start in, Paul, how you doing tonight?
I'm doing very well. It's a little bit rainy today, but we have beautiful weather. It's 13 degrees Celsius or 56 degrees Fahrenheit. So this is shorts and t-shirt weather for us. So we are buzzing here in Canada. How about you?
I'm doing a little okay. As we were talking before, I cringed when you said shorts weather at 56 degrees. It's around 70 in California, Los Angeles, where I'm from, and I still have like a blanket when I'm working.
Uh,
So not quite 80 degrees shorts weather for me. But
yeah.
Colin, over on the East Coast, how you doing?
I'm quite well. It's very bizarre to have the hottest weather be here in Pittsburgh, where it was like 83, 80, 85 today, and sun. It's been unseasonably nice here in Pittsburgh this spring, early summer so far. So I'm not complaining. We'll see if that lasts until Liverpool get here. I suspect it will not.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll keep. I'm curious to see whoever I think Liverpool needs to fire, whoever the marketing team or whatever it was who chose Charlotte, South Carolina
Yeah,
in August. Like absolute,
I,
just
I'm. I made this point on the stream I think I was on Sunday, which is like I don't think people who maybe are not familiar with deep middle South Carolina in August, you know, they might be in for a little bit of a rude time. And I don't mean the people; I mean the humidity and the bugs. It's going to be something very special, something they will not forget.
I'm predicting two water breaks per half for that
At
for that
least,
game.
at least,
But,
yes.
but Paul, we'll jump into the topics tonight. Do you think we will see new faces for that preseason matches, and do you think one of them might be Inacio? Gonzalo Inacio, we're getting like, is it happening? Is it not happening in terms of if we're interested or not? I think it was Fabrizio Romano saying that we were interested in Inacio. Then David Lynch was like, no, we're not. And now there's rumors coming out of Portugal that we are keeping tabs on Inacio and interested. What do you think about Inacio? Could this be our first signing, and would you want him as a Liverpool signing?
So the answer to both of your question is no and no. No meaning I don't expect much or if any new faces at the start of preseason. We might add one or two players before the end of the window, but at the start, I expect them to be pretty much the same, primarily because I've seen a few reports where Arne Slot has pledged to take a good look at the squad to see, what the younger players have to offer before they, decide on making any drastic changes, any major signings, etc. So I expect the preseason to roll off with the present players that we have, especially the younger players, people like Carvalho and those other players we have on loan to get involved so that we can decide as a team, what we want to do going forward. As it relates to Inacio, I just have this feeling that it's all breeze and nothing concrete because I think I feel pretty confident in saying that barring injuries, the first Premier League game of the upcoming season will see Van Dijk and either of Konate or Kwanzaa as the centre back pairing. Now, I do believe we will sign a centre back, and more likely it will be a left-footed centre back. But I do not see a world in which Inacio and Van Dijk can play together because Van Dijk has been marooned at that left-sided centre-back for his entire Liverpool career. And even though he's right-footed, he seemed to be very comfortable playing in that spot. So the only way it could work with Inacio is if Inacio plays left back instead of Rabo, or we switch to a back three, which I don't think will happen, because I don't see Van Dijk moving over to the right side. So the point I'm trying to make is that the centre back that we signed will be more a kind of a backup, somebody to come and take some minutes off Verge. And we are not going to spend $60 million, 60 million euros on a centre back to be a backup. So that's why it's kind of hard to see us signing a $60, $70 million centre back to stay on the bench, unless it's a case where, as I said before, we're going to use that person to play left back. So it's going to be interesting. But I could be surprised, I could be wrong. Of course, we're just speculating. But unless somebody tells me that Virgil is going to play on the right side, I don't see how we can spend that kind of money on a centre back and don't play him.
Yeah, totally understandable. It does seem like a hefty price. We've been linked with them, or we were linked with them last window, and it might just be the rumor mill going around. But totally take on board what you're saying, Paul. And yeah, that would be an odd signing to make. Essentially, that might only be cover for Virgil, which still seems like Virgil's got a couple of years left at top level. But Colin, what do you think about Inacio? We have been linked with them before. Won the league this year in Portugal. Amarim's team, so maybe that would have been an interesting, probably more popular link if Amarim became our coach. But Slot is the man. So do you think Inacio is something outside of the rumor mill, or do you think there's anything concrete to that, or do you think it's just speculation this stage on? And would you want him to come if it wasn't?
Purely based on talent and profile, I think he fits and he works. I would be very happy to have him. To Paul's point, which I think he's very correct about making, is I think the age profile and the kind of point in their career that the center back is something that is going to be very important in finding this center back. Because to Paul's point, I don't think that Inacio would be happy to go from starting at Sporting to sitting behind Virgil van Dijk for 2 more seasons, potentially 3. I mean, definitely not 3, but probably the majority of the second season, I would guess as well, based on the way that Virgil's been playing. I don't think that that's something that would be, if it was myself, it would not be attractive to me, just based on where I think his career is at and where his next step would be. Like player profile wise, I think it works really, really well, and would be very happy to have that signing. But it's why, to me, the Lenny Yoro signing it, link would be something that makes more sense to me. There's a difference in age. I think it would be an easier sell to someone who's 18, 19 years old to take 2 years as a center back and, really learn from Virgil. Obviously, they're still going, based on the amount of games that we're going to play, they're still going to play a lot. It's just not going to be in top Champions League games where Virgil is going to continue to start outside, barring any injury. I think that pitch is much easier to make to someone like Lenny Yoro rather than Goncalo Inacio, just based on, I think, where their career is at and their age is. Other than that, I don't see why that would be something that he would say, I really want to do this and sit behind Virgil for another 1.5 or 2 years.
Yeah, totally understandable and great point. It's It's an odd position to be in too, because we're not sure. We know Matip's going out out the door. It looks like Sepp Vandenberg out the window, but it looks like Sepp Vandenberg says like, I'm not interested in hanging around. I'm ready to move on. So it's that odd. Like Kwanzaa stepped up. Paul totally earlier on in the season was saying, or at the end of the season was saying that Kwanzaa might even be higher up on the scale than Kanate, and starting to lean towards Paul with the injuries that Kanate gets. But it seems like despite injuries, there's a competitive front for center backs. So it'd be interesting, especially for someone like Inacio, to come in and not really get a chance. Although I guess I'm wondering like if we're going to see a signing at center back, like maybe someone young like Euro, like you said, Colin, or someone old like Klavan, kind of like an Endo signing to replace Matip. Paul?
My guess is, well, we are going to sign somebody center back. That I'm sure, because Matip is leaving. Well, he's gone, and if you follow developments over the last couple of days, I think it's safe to say that Sepp Vandenberg is going because he clearly wants to go. Don't blame him. So we are going to sign someone there. So my guess is the profile we are looking for is someone young in the 30 to 40 million, 35, 40 million max range. Someone who is comfortable to spend some time on the bench, but also the person must be also be capable of playing at left back, because there might be more minutes available for that left-footed person at left back versus at center back. And I've said it many times, even a couple times on stream here as well, that I've noticed a number of top teams nowadays are using 3 or 4 center backs. It helps with the defensive structure. If you look at Man City, well, Arsenal, their right back is a center back. With City, their 2 left backs are 2 center backs. So they may lose a little bit going forward in terms of having that center back playing over there versus just having a full-time left backs. But what you gain in defensive structure, defensive stability, might be worth it. And especially in our scenario, if we decide to keep Trent at right back, which I think is possible, then we would see Trent with a lot of that inverting thing into midfield in possession. So that would make it even more important to have that solid defensive person on that side of the pitch, because then we would kind of switch to a quote-unquote back 3 in possession. So we will sign somebody, but my guess is going to be somebody who is capable of playing both roles, somebody young. And Inacio can certainly do that. But I don't think that's a role that we're going to be spending £60 million on, which is what it's going to take to get him. And also, I am not so sure too if he is comfortable, as Colin just said, in coming with that role on the table. He will want to be assured that he's going to get playing time, because players want to play now. Big players want to play, especially in big games. So we will sign somebody, but I just don't see us spending that kind of money. We have the money, and if we could find, say, a number 6 for 60, 70 million, I think the club would have no problem spending the money. But for that profile, I just don't see it happening. I could be wrong, but I just don't see that happening.
To further on that point, I think it's also difficult to, if you base this on the transitive property, one of our center backs is starting over one of Arsenal's center backs of the France team. And then one of our other center backs is starting over that French center back for our team. So we have the two best center backs probably in the Premier League, starting next to Virgil van Dijk, who is actually the best center back in the league. So I think bringing someone in, they have to understand that they're not going to be first or second choice, which I think is, to Paul's point, is very challenging, especially for young men with, let's be honest, with ego. So and of course, and everyone does, but I think that finding that right person is much more of a challenge than it might initially present.
Yeah.
Another thing too, before you come in, Drew, is I much prefer to see. I would love to see Joe Gomez spend more time as our backup centre back versus what he's currently doing right now as fullback. I still believe his best position is centre back. So we are not, the situation at centre back is not as dire as we think it is when we really spend a little bit of time to think about it. So, but I still believe we will sign somebody young, but not too expensive.
Yeah, we definitely need the cover, because I think somebody said in the comments here, Kanate is brilliant when fit, and we haven't got a single full season with him. You have the Euros in France. It's going to be, it's getting to the point where I'm not relying on him a whole season, but Kwanzaa has been absolutely brilliant. And I'll start getting to questions in the chat and names in the chat. Chibuki put up earlier, Pacho or Hincape. We were linked with Hincape before. I think, Colin, you were speaking on him, but we'll go with in previous streams. Correct me if I'm wrong. You're giving me eyes that not, but Willian Pacho, 22 years old, Eintracht Frankfurt. This is, from what I was looking at, this is his first real season, big season in the Bundesliga. He was at Royal Antwerp in the Belgian league 2 seasons prior. So he's at that 22 years old age, kind of the FSG bracket there. Do you think, Colin, that'd be, do you think he just falls in the Inacio group, where at the age where he's getting first team football, a good league, good team, probably wouldn't want to come back and not be a shoo-in to start? How do you feel about Pacho and his potential transfer?
I think both of those players, both Pacho and Hincape, again, but like those are the top three for, or we were talking about Lenny Yoro as well. That's a top four of like the center back group that I really think that we're gonna try to pick from. Whether or not that ends up happening, that's a different story. But I think that those four are probably the ones we're gonna try to select one from. The older three of them make less sense to me from their end than it does from Liverpool. Again, Liverpool would be very happy to have anybody in that range, 18 to 22. I think it makes a lot of sense. Maybe you could say Pacho because he wasn't in a team that, won the Bundesliga, or that it still is going to be something that frankly, with the return of Xabi Alonso to Leverkusen again, like they're between them and Bayern, like there's a lot lower of a chance of someone else kind of sneaking in, I think, to win the Bundesliga. So maybe you could say, someone playing for Frankfurt makes a little more sense. It's definitely a step up, and their chances of winning, major trophies in Germany are less so than Hincape, is just based on the team profile at the moment. But I still think it is a very compelling point to say, these guys are getting regular first team starts, and I don't think that they will be, at nearly the same clip as if they stayed. Doesn't mean that those players wouldn't want to come. I'm sure that they would be on improved contracts. They would be making more money. they're at a larger club with, you know, larger profile, like that all can sway someone. But at a certain point, I think it does frustrate players when they go from getting consistent first team football to not. That is a big transition for players, you know, regardless of switching clubs, regardless of switching leagues, regardless of switching countries, or you know first languages spoken in these countries, you know, not to say, you know, not to even mention all of those factors as well. I think just going from a place where you are the out and out first team player to a place where you're not expected to start really, it can be really difficult, especially I think for young players. So I worry about our ability to attract someone based on those factors. You know, I think obviously, like Paul said, someone will come in. We will get someone. Frankly, we have to. I just don't. I think that person in their specific club is a little more. We might have to look a little further outside of the box than we might like to initially.
Yeah, totally back you on that point. It's definitely the last thing you want to see, though, is like another Carvalho situation where somebody who's flying on another team, getting regular game time, important member of the squad, come to the team and just like ride the bench or not get any minutes and no real chances within foreseeable chances. But Paul, I want to, before I ask you that question about Pacho, just want to address in the chat that I'm seeing a lot of people are messaging in about Slot, commenting on his lack of interview, is he missing, etc. I'll let Paul answer the question about Pacho, and then we can chip around and discuss Slot's disappearing act. But Paul, do you have anything to add on Pacho, Willian Pacho?
Well, Pacho is in the same category as Inacio, primarily because I think the price range is roughly the same. Actually, I prefer Pacho over Inacio because I think Pacho is more defensively sound, but nevertheless, the price range is roughly the same. And if you understand how these football teams, how they think, they allocate certain resources to certain area of need. And if they don't see the center back as an immediate, urgent need, it's hard for me to see them spending the kind of money that it would take to get even a Pacho for that role. I saw somebody put in the comments earlier about what is it, Hato or Hato, the guy from Ajax. That's a decent shout, you know, because I think that guy, from what I can remember when I saw somebody mention him earlier this week, I think he's about 18 or 19, and he's left-footed. He's a centre back that can play a little bit of left back. So I'm not so sure what the price it would take to get him, or if he's really good enough. But that is the kind of profile that we're looking for. Somebody who is talented, but 18, 19, maybe 20, who can contribute now, but is comfortable to sit and learn behind the best centre-back we've ever had in our history, knowing that if he's good enough, that position will be his in two years' time when he's 21, 22, 23. So that's the kind of profile that I think we are looking for, and we will find somebody like that.
Yeah, that would definitely be exciting to get a player in at that age and see them develop. I'm still thinking we might get a Clavon signing, but somebody said in the chat we moved away from Endo Clavon signings and we need more higher profile players. I'll try to find that. But I just quickly wanted to bring the conversation. I see a few people in the chat. We are looking through the comments in the chat, by the way, so we'll pull them up as we get the time. But there's been a few questions.
About Slot?
yeah, little jokes here from Phil and then Mozzie, but then some, not that one, from Philip and Phil. Do we need a report? Slot missing, and then some debate in the chat with Rabona Red and Philip about whether Arne Slot should be contacting players. Robbo giving the interview, hasn't talked with them. Colin, do you think Slot, it seems like he's on vacation in Ibiza, according to Red Fellas, but do you think Slot should have made an appearance by now? Do you think he should be talking to the players? Or do you think he deserves his vacation and players are on international duty?
So I am so very interested in this situation. Both I think our fan reaction and the club maybe trying to manage this situation and where he actually is, or when his actual first report date is versus I find this very interesting. I didn't know, is he actually in Ibiza? Is that something that's actually been confirmed, or is it just jokes, do we think?
That's probably jokes.
Okay, so which is honestly very funny, because there's to me there's equal chance that he is he had a family vacation scheduled for then, and was his contract starts the 1st or whatever. But I think part of what we have to maybe check ourselves on is that if he is only the first team coach and not the manager, and there's been a lot of reporting on this distinction, if there is such a big difference between those titles, maybe there is an equal amount of difference in responsibilities, and maybe it's not the most imperative thing that he is in the door and he's doing paperwork and he's calling every person you've ever wanted to immediate. Maybe it's okay, maybe there's just a misunderstanding maybe between the social teams and the PR department at Liverpool, and Arne and his personal family, or whoever's managing his personal schedule. Maybe there's just a miscommunication about when it's expected to be in the building and to be doing media things with the media team. I saw someone else speculating that maybe the Liverpool media team are on holiday.
Yeah,
and
that's what I think.
And that's a legitimate thing. Maybe Arne's there slaving away for 25 hours a day. But maybe the rest of the social team is on vacation with their family, because they're normal people who deserve to take vacations from their jobs. I think there's so many different variables for what is actually going on. The one thing that I do, and I brought this up on the stream on Sunday, was for you guys, at what point do you actually become genuinely concerned that something is wrong if you have not heard from someone by then? To me, it was this Friday or Saturday. I want to know and please put in the chat as well, tweet us, comment us, when is it actually and legitimately a major concern for you that we have not heard from it?
Paul, your thoughts on Slot's disappearing?
Yeah, I thought about it as well, and the only thing that I can come up with is what Colin just said, that maybe they're on holidays. Because if you think about it, this week here, or this last week and this week, are probably the 2 quietest week in the year for the staff, because the Premier League season, all the other cups, everything just completed. The transfer window opens on the 14th of this month, so that means in another 10 days the office will be buzzing with a lot of activity. And then the transfer window opens, then we roll right into preseason, then into the regular season. So it stands to reason that for the staff that does all of the recording, all of the arrangements for the press conferences, all of that kind of stuff, if they are going to get a break, and you suspect that people have to get some time off, these 2 weeks that we are going through right now might be the quiet time in which people are just not in office. And when you also think about the players too, most of the players are scattered far and wide representing their countries in friendlies, Euros, everybody's away. So there is really no player at Liverpool or at AXA right now for Slot to go and meet. And I'm sure you would want to be texting and calling all of these guys. They're actually with their national team, working with their national team coaches. So this is just a quiet little period of time that I suspect that by the end of this week into next week, there'll be a lot of activity. If we don't see or hear from him by Friday or Saturday, then Monday morning we have to probably report him to the police as missing.
Yeah, it's kind of funny. I'm on the other hand where I'd actually think it's kind of nice for him not to step up to the mic right away. Like everything you said, Paul and Collins, like the Euros are coming up, staff deserve a break, are probably on holiday. And Klopp, for me, it's like Klopp has just left. You don't really need to bust down the door and have Slot come in, especially when there's not that much going on for the next couple of weeks. And hey, I think you should say something before the Euros, like a little announcement. Excited to watch the players out on international duty, Copa America as well. Other than that, like you said, Paul, it's like, is he going to start texting and calling players on international duty, like when they're, getting ready for the competition, other than like a good luck text? Or I just don't see it being it. Yeah, I think it's like, I'd rather see him say something before the Euro start, and then
because I saw that interview with Robbo that somebody mentioned in the comments. When Robbo was asked, have you heard from Slot, or have you spoken to him? And Robbo said no. But then when I thought about it, it would not be appropriate for Slot to be talking to players prior to the 1st of June. One, he would not yet be the coach. I don't think his work permit will be valid until the 1st of June, right? So that would be a violation, probably. And secondly, Robbo is out being coached by his national team. I don't think there's anything too urgent that Slot need to call him about. So that's not unusual if you think about it. So yeah, it's just that because we are so anxious and excited as a fan base, we want to actually see and hear from him. And to compound the fact too, is that Slot was talking and posting and giving interviews almost every day before we actually took over the job. So now that he has taken over the job and gone quiet, it's just kind of strange.
Yeah, the one thing that I hadn't really struck me either, which I think Paul brought up, was that I'm pretty sure I saw, some of the major Liverpool beat reporters are also sitting on boats in the Mediterranean, sunbathing. People need to be there in order to cover it as well. And so when who was it? It wasn't Joyce. It was who's the other one of the other main Liverpool, the one that Klopp didn't like so much.
Neil Jones. Neil Jones.
No.
Oh yeah, no, yeah. I know.
Oh, I can't remember.
I
saw. Yes.
Yes, James Pierce.
Yes, I literally think I saw a picture of him sitting on a boat in the Mediterranean today. So also journalists who cover Liverpool who will need to be there for that first press conference and the first day of press, whatever. Those people are also on vacation as well. And to your guys' points, is legitimately the quietest 2 weeks of the year. So people are allowed to take a vacation, take a break and put their phones down. They don't all have to be as connected as we, some of us are to Twitter all the time. They can frankly, like whether or not our head coach is doing the job. Like I know that the behind the scenes staff is. I know that the recruitment staff is. I know that those people, this is their busiest time of the year. Like they're doing the work. It's okay. Like I'm sure that Arne Slot has his phone on him and is responding to phone calls and text messages from the recruitment staff anytime that they're calling. Like regardless of whether or not he's put out a video saying hi to all of us on Twitter, like I'm sure that there's work being done. I'm not concerned about that.
And Van Dijk has acknowledged in an interview I saw earlier this week too, or over the weekend, that they actually spoke. So at the very least, we know he has spoken to our captain. Not sure if because they are both Dutch and Van Dijk is home, if they would then visit each other or have a beer, but at least we know that he has spoken to the captain. So he's alive.
Yeah, yeah. I think it's interesting to see it because you could just get anxious and nervous, like what's going on? Are there any problems? But I agree with both of you, and for me, it's just like I can't see anything like at this stage, like these next 2 weeks, that's absolutely prevalent. I know Philip in the chat said there's players running down on the last year of their contract, but I can't see like the ones that are they have tournaments. It's not like they're gonna be like, okay, let's get the agent. Like probably agents are talking or in the background, but you're not gonna ruin your headspace by going over contract negotiations before a big tournament. But I guess when's the cutoff date? Colin, you said Friday. Paul, where you have?
I give him until Sunday. So Monday morning, if we are still talking about missing in action, Arne Slot, then we have a problem.
Yeah, I like Monday, Paul. I pushed it even to Euro start on the 14th, the day before the 14th, 13th, but Monday's probably more realistic. But again, thank you everyone for chiming in the comments. We do really appreciate all the activity, all the everything every viewer brings to the channel. We're here every Tuesday night. Paul is absolutely regular on the channel, same with Colin. And definitely appreciate everyone watching and commenting. I have starred some comments in there, so we will get back to them. We're just going with the flow for the moment. But before we wrap up on transfers, I will pull up some of those starred comments. Chibuki came back. Just wanted to saw him send this in caps twice, Paul. I think he's talking about essentially where the market is at this moment. Do you think? Pair that with, I think Focal Point here put this up. We're trying to upgrade our center back, not some squad player. With that being said, Paul, do you agree with that statement first, that we're actually not looking for a squad player or somebody to step into Virgil van Dijk? We're looking to someone to challenge for first step or potentially replace Konate and Kwanzaa in the pecking order?
Well, we are looking for squad players. As I said earlier in the stream here, I strongly believe that our two starting centre-back for the first game, barring injury, will be Verge and either Konate or Kwanzaa. So we are looking for squad players. The only position that I see right now where we are actually looking for a starter, if we can find one, is at number 6, defensive midfield. So everybody else that we are looking for, unless Michael Edwards and his team can come up with a really big name that is an unbelievable offer that we just can't refuse, which I really don't see that happening. But I think we have our starting 10 of the 11 already in-house. So as it relates to Pacho for 45 million, of course, I'm no guru in transfers and costs, etc. We just go by what we see online. So if we could, at that price, he would be an excellent investment. No doubt. As long as we can sell him on the idea of the long-term vision, where, we are going to teach you, you're going to learn behind Verge, and we expect you to have a long career at Liverpool, but to be the eventual Verge successor, meaning you will probably not get the amount of playing time you want in the first year. If the player can deal with that, and it's like in that 40-45 million euros, absolutely. I'm all for that. But I was just, trying to be a little bit more realistic rather than just say put 60-70 million for a player that's not going to start. But I think that the number 6 is the spot that we are desperately trying to find a starter right now. The other positions are just reinforcements. That's just my opinion, actually.
And Colin, what do you think about that for in terms of are we looking for starters at center back? And I'm going to throw this comment up as well. Mozzie, he had a couple asking questions before. I'll bring up his other one a little later, but we'll start with that for center back and center defensive mid. First, do you think we'll buy someone center back to actually come ahead and start right away to upgrade the squad? Or do you think we're looking more along the lines what Paul and we've been talking about before is more of a person to grow into the role? And who would be your ideal signing?
Yeah. I try not to call the people out who make comments like too much. I think that comment is a heinous. Like, of course, we're trying to bring in squad players. Like, I don't. Can you name me 5 players who are better than Virgil van Dijk at center back, like in the world currently? And if you can, are any of them for sale? And would any of them be purchased by Liverpool? The answer is unequivocally no. Like there are no players up for purchase who are going to upgrade. Certainly not upgrade that left-hand side. I think you could make a short list of like 20 players maybe that would upgrade our right-sided center back. Maybe you could make an argument for it. And I legitimately like our first choice, arguably right-sided center back, is starting for France. He's starting for France. That was announced today. He's starting for France today. As of today, he's the starting center back. Who do you think is up for purchase? Who is available to be bought that can upgrade our center back positions? If anybody has someone who is reasonably purchasable, please let me know because I haven't seen them. Of course, we're looking for like squad depth and like where you're able to win championships is by being able to put squad players into games against teams like, let's say last year like Luton, or let's say last year like Sheffield, where you can rotate players in and still win the game comfortably. Like those are the kind of players that we're looking for. Whether or not they're an older profile or a younger profile who's going to grow into it, we can have arguments and discussions all day about like what that should be. But the difference between teams that hit 83 points in the league and teams that hit 99 points in the league and are able to challenge in multiple competitions and win trophies, the difference between those two teams are in the squads, or in the margins. They're not just in the starters. You physically cannot play the same 11 people 80 times a year. And playing, that many games is what gets you to the point where you can challenge on multiple fronts. And that's, we've talked about this, ad nauseum, which is Liverpool's goal is not just to do one thing. Like we want to win and compete in all of those competitions that we're in. Every time that we don't, we're on here talking about what a profound like disappointment it is that we're out of a competition, or that we didn't try hard enough, or whatever it is. So I'm like very aligned with Paul's point. I think there is literally one position that, as I can see it right now, is absolutely needing a first team upgrade, and that's a 6, a defensively minded midfielder. I think everything else is an argument at best if you can find someone who is purchasable, who would even challenge one of our current squad players for their position. I don't think this is like a, this isn't like a we need to buy 4 starters, 6 starters sort of summer. This is we need 4 players who make our squad better and can challenge in 4 different competitions.
Yeah, I think for me, again, I agree with both you and Paul on this one. It's like we're talking about. It's like who realistically is going to come in and sit behind Konate and Van Dijk and Kwanzaa, who've been absolutely amazing. You definitely don't want to be stuck in the mud if somebody gets injured, but you're not going to buy someone who's pushing to start and not guaranteed to start. And as you both said, like the number 6 seems to be the position that is absolute nailed on for improvement. Because for me, I'd be worried Besic was out all season pretty much. Endo, it's been great, but you can't just rely on him an entire season. Like you said, Colin, with the amount of games that we're playing at his age, he can't do that. We saw Fabinho burn out. And then McAllister there is not the ideal number 6. We see his utility further up the field and don't want to pigeonhole him into that position. So number 6 definitely does seem to me that one position where we need that upgrade. And I think, Paul, you said earlier on the stream that if FSG was going to spend 70 mil on a position, that'd be it. Is there anyone that you would drop 70 million on for that number 6 position?
There are a number of names being floated around. We know the usual names, but I haven't seen anybody that I can say, yes, 60, 70, 80 million, let's do it. Obviously, my guess is that the Liverpool scouting department is working in overdrive, because as we saw with that bid for Caicedo late in the window last season, if they identify that player that they truly believe is the caliber player that they are looking for, we are not afraid to spend the money. But what they are careful, or what they're trying to avoid, is to spend big money for an average player just because we are desperate. So I actually can't give you a name that I can say, we're not getting Declan Rice, we're not getting Rodri, we're not getting Caicedo, so let's get those off the table, right? So I can recite 3, 4, 5 names that have been circulating around, but I cannot say that there's any that strikes me as, yes, this is the missing piece. Yes, there might be 1 or 2 that is an upgrade over Endo, but not to the level where, not a Fabinho level, if you know what I mean. So, I see somebody mention about Thuram in the comment. For me, that's a no. There's a couple of red flags too with him. He has a year left on his contract, and we have seen rumors that he's available for like 13 or 15 million pounds, some ridiculously low figure. Why is it that no one is in for him? Maybe it's not as good as we thought. Its parent club, OGC Nice, is actually owned by the same guy that is part owner in Manchester United. Manchester United are desperate for young, strong midfielders, and they don't seem to be interested in a player like him. I saw today where they're trying to get João Neves, as the Portuguese guy, for like 55 million pounds or something like that, whilst Thuram is available for 15 million. So I really don't see anybody out there that I can tell you, but I'm sure we will sign somebody. We just have to just allow the team. And as I always said, we think that we have the best backroom staff right now with Edwards and his team. So I think we just have to be a little bit patient, because if we can identify the issues with the team, you can be assured that they are just as anxious as us to find a solution. So we just have to be a little bit patient.
Colin, speaking again on the midfield, I did not address this yet because Stephen did not include it in the topics in our chat. But as Paul just mentioned, we have João Neves, 19 years old, plays for Benfica, 33 appearances this season. Pretty impressive for his age. Do you think there's any validity in those rumors yet? You think it's just a rumor mill? And would you like a player like him in our squad?
So, I would take a player like him in the squad. I think every rumor that we've heard so far, almost entirely for every team, this is not necessarily like a Liverpool exclusive thing. I think everything that we've heard so far in terms of like Twitter rumors about player transfers is almost entirely, I'd say like 99%, like player agent trying to drum up interest for the player so far. I think almost none of it has any substance. To what Paul was speaking about with Thuram, I've been on stream and on record saying that I think for that price, that anybody who is willing to do that business with them is smart to do that business. I think it's a very low price for the potential and for the potential ceiling of that player. However, the longer that I think about it, the more that I do truly believe that it is Nice trying to start a bidding war. Like I think that they've taken the road of, we're going to start this price really low in hopes that someone's like, yes, we're going to get him, and then they can kind of work that price up with United or whoever. Because there, to Paul's point, and he made this, I've made this on different streams. For someone who is owned by the part owner of Manchester United, who need big physical specimen sort of midfielders, there's literally no reason that business would not have already been done for Manchester United if they did not want that business to already be done. It would be, that's the easiest negotiation you could possibly imagine. There's literally a link between the two. They could sit down and have that deal hammered out in an afternoon. So for the price that we're talking about, I don't think 51 was it 51 million that was 51 million pound.
Yeah, Man United offered 51 million pounds for Neves, and it was promptly rejected.
No, then no, thank you, none. No, thank you. I don't want anything to do with it. I would not touch it with a 10-foot pole. I think the only kind of people that I see who are worth buying to my eye, and I've watched a lot of some of the Anfield Wrap coverage about this. I've watched some other like transfer coverage, some player data digging that I've done. I think the players who are available at the 6 are either worth 100 million, or they should be purchased for that, or the player that we're looking for is not worth more than 20 to 30, because they're a stats, there's someone who's been identified by a stats wizard who's like, that's your guy. He played in Austria, or like, from somewhere. I don't even have a name. Like I think there are guys who are like way up here in terms of like their value at that position. And then I think there's a massive gap of like, frankly, like BS of players who are like trying to say that they're worth 75 to 85 million. And I think those players are not worth more than 30, frankly, based on their actual quality. So to me, it's just a better strategy just to find someone who is worth 10 to 15 to 30 at a club that you don't know about yet, and a player whose name you haven't heard of, rather than paying, what were we quoted a check to Corey for last up, 75 million
75,
pounds.
yeah.
I like him well enough as a player, especially prior to his injury. 75 million is double the price that it should be for him. That we're just in an area currently where, or at a time where there's just not that kind of quality and depth at that position in world football. and eventually it all sort of evens out. But like at the moment, it's way down here when you can find, the same relative value at a left wing for, 30 to 50 million. The same value in your team is like 90 million pounds for a number 6 in the moment. So to me, it's like, find the next guy. Don't buy the guy.
Yeah, that tended to be the FSG model, the Edwards model before. That's how we got like the Manes, the Salas, etc. It wasn't players that everyone was going in for big clubs. Fabinho just happens out of nowhere. So I'm curious if that happens. But J Muse, definitely see you put this in the chat a couple times. So we'll touch on this before we wrap up. We'll wrap up with Trent in the midfield, but before we get there, guys, did you see the news about City suing the Premier League? It's from what I saw real quick was they were saying it's an unfair system, kind of gatekeeping the Premier League from new owners coming in, etc. And it seems kind of like a diversion maybe for the 115 charges to get them tied up on another lawsuit, make it more difficult for the Premier League to move forward, or the FA, with the 115 charges. I felt like if they had sued the Premier League or had done this like years ago, that might have made more sense before all the financial fair play rules really started kicking in, because that does seem a bit like gatekeeping to me. But at this stage of where Man City are in their development, it definitely it doesn't sit well. But what about you guys? Whoever wants to answer.
Well, the last person, the last team that should complain about anything being unfair, even if they have a point, is the team that have won 6 of the last 7 Premier League. Any other team can raise an objection or a complaint, but the team that won 6 of the last 7 Premier League should not be suing the Premier League. So I think this is just a distraction. They have a big date coming up in November and they are scared. So they are coming up with this as a distraction to hopefully muddy the water and perhaps even postpone their November date with Destiny. So I don't think anybody has any sympathy for City. I didn't even spend the time to read the complaint in detail because to me, I just don't want to hear it.
Go.
I have so many thoughts. I'm going to try to keep them concise. The quote from their complaint, which was what the quote was, tyranny of the many, wasn't that
majority?
What the quote? That is one of the most heinous things I've ever read in a judicial complaint ever. That's one of the most heinous things put to legal document I've ever seen in my life. Tyranny of the majority is called a democracy. Literally get out of here. It is absolutely 100% a tactic and a way that they are trying to continue to make the Premier League spend money on legal fees and to try to wear down the Premier League's legal teams. I saw in some of the reporting for it that the Premier League has said that their yearly legal fees have gone in the past year from an estimated £5 million a year to at least £20 million a year, and that their legal teams are have had to grow, nearly exponentially in that same time. It is absolutely a ploy and a tactic to try, and it's not even to garner public support. They literally do not care about that. They literally are trying to wear down a legal team so that they are less able to do their job in November than they would be without it. They're trying to make the budget of the legal team balloon. They're trying to make the quality of the work that the legal team does go down. They're trying to, at minimum, make the Premier League spend the money that we know that this conglomerate does not want for. Like, they don't care if their legal budget is £20 million, £30 million, £80 million a year. They don't care. That's not a relevant amount of money to them. But it is to pretty much any other legally functioning business. It's everybody else has made this point that people who are not guilty do not make a fuss about it like this. You don't insist on your you don't insist on the unfairness of the system when you are the most successful team and business department within that system. We've been shown these numbers that they bring in terms of their amount of money raised for the past 15 years now, and every year they're the highest earning off of their corporate sponsorships. And now they have the audacity to say that, well, that's not a fair system because we haven't been able to do what we want. You've made the most amount of money. You've said so. So I don't understand how it's not fair if you've been the one that has been able to earn that amount of money. It's the easiest to see through racket that I've ever seen in my life. And I think truly anybody who is standing by their side is really joking themselves and is really in a delusionate life. These are not serious people.
Well, it's certainly making interesting headlines, and
it really is.
I'm curious to see what happens come November, but we have to start wrapping up soon. But we have not yet discussed Trent to midfield. Had an amazing game for England. I'm sure everyone's seen that beautiful pass and his goal, another beautiful moment in the game. Paul, do you think Trent? I think I read the article today that Gareth Southgate is heavily leaning towards putting Trent in the midfield double pivot. Do you see? I know earlier in the stream you said you wouldn't be surprised to see Trent starting right back this coming season, but do you think there's a strong potential that he will be in the midfield?
For Liverpool or for England?
For Liverpool.
I've thought about this a few times, many times actually, and asking myself, what would I do if I was the coach? Now, there's two scenarios. If we manage to somehow find that number 6 that we have been craving, that Fabinho type 6, or that number 6 that can play that role on their own without help, then I would still continue to use Trent as a right back and have him invert. Because the fact of the matter is we need Trent on the ball. Where he starts is not so much an issue. It's about how can you get Trent the ball. So if we have that strong number 6, then I have no problem in Trent inverting from right back and your left back kind of tuck in more to help with the defense, just in case we lose the ball. And when Trent invert in that scenario, the number 6 would actually be behind him. So we would actually have 4 defenders behind Trent. So that gives you that extra midfielder, which is what I like. Absence that number 6, if we're going to play Endo or Baka based on how the team is constituted right now, we probably would be better suited to put Trent in midfield and do a 4-2-3-1. That's what it's 4-2-3-1. So you have that double pivot, because then you'll have both of them there, and you'll also have your right back, which presumably will be Connor Bradley or Gomez. So you are defensively solid. But whatever we do, we need to get Trent the ball. As it relates to England, if I can touch on that briefly, I can't recall any team in world football who will have a player who it is universally accepted that that player is the best player on the ball available, and that person is not an automatic starter. The closest England has ever had to Trent is David Beckham. He's the closest I can remember of an Englishman being able to make those kind of passes, be as lethal as Trent is from dead ball scenarios, etc. So you could talk about Foden or Bellingham or whoever you want. These guys should start. I get it. But if Southgate is smart, I think Trent and Rice should start as that double pivot. As for Liverpool, I don't care. I just want Trent on the ball.
Colin?
Trent Rice double pivot sounds like you're cooking with oil. That's some nice stuff. The real answer for Liverpool is Big Arne should call up Trent whenever it is that he gets into the office. He should say, "Hello, Trent, my name's Arne. What position would you like to play?"
Midfield. That's his answer.
And whatever his answer is, you say, "Congratulations, you now have a new contract based off of the 90th percentile of midfielders in the world. Here's your new 5-year contract. Go ahead and sign on the dotted line, son." And that's what you should do. You should say to him, "You play wherever you would like. If you want to play midfield, that's fine. We'll figure out a way to get you on the ball from the midfield. But whatever makes him happy and gets him to sign that contract is what you should do. Where do you want to play, son? You want to play midfield? Congratulations. You're a midfielder. There you go." And that's it. That should be the end of the conversation.
No, it's definitely the time to do it with the transition and everything. Definitely opens up a lot of new possibilities. That being said, Colin, I'm going to let you have the last word because I do need to cook dinner. Apologies to everyone. But thank you all for joining us on Star Stripes Anfield Nights, another Tuesday night stream. We really appreciate everyone in the chat. We really appreciate everyone who chimed in to watch. I haven't said it yet. Stephen always gets on me, but please like, share, and subscribe if you enjoyed the content. We'll be back again next week, next Tuesday night, and LFC Transfer Window puts out videos every single day. So we do hope you enjoyed the stream. We greatly appreciate everyone joining, and have a great rest of your week. We'll see if we've heard from Arne Slot by the next time that we see you. Good night.